Fruit trees don't like wet feet. That's something that my father, who was a landscaper and professional gardener, told me many years ago. I'm going to share with you how it is that I plant fruit trees, so hopefully you can avoid making some very common mistakes and plant your trees right the first time. These trees have been heeled in, which is essentially just covering the roots until you're ready to actually plant them. Let me show you one of the trees that I've already planted, and I'll talk a little bit about the thought process behind this planting technique. But essentially what you have is the entire rootstock, and a good majority of the roots are above grade. And what that does is it allows the water to pass through the roots so that they don't become inundated in the winter time. And later on in the spring, once the soil begins to dry out, those roots are going to seek that water out and start to work their way down into the native soil. So for a quick point of reference, this is the rootstock. This is the scion that's attached to the rootstock at this graft union. It's a good idea to just take a look and see what your actual root mass looks like. That's going to help you decide how you're going to need to open this hole up. This hole has been opened up preliminarily, but I may need to advance it in a particular direction depending on the shape of this. You're going to want to protect this graft union from sun scald, so the best way to do that is position it toward the north. I've got this mounted up so it's actually above ground level. So I'm going to take my tree and bring it in here, spread my roots out. This planting technique works well in most soil types, but it is particularly critical to the health and survival of your tree in poor draining soils that are high in clay content. I like to plant directly into the native soil, and then I bring my amendments over the top of that. So what that essentially does is it teaches the tree to not depend on those amendments. It's going to start seeking out water, and it's going to force those roots down into the water as things start to dry out. But the amendment is going to be the cap that goes over the top of this. And if I do put any amendment into the soil, it's usually at a ratio about 50-50. So 50% native soil, 50% maybe some compost or some other kind of an amendment. Rather than cutting them off, I'm going to just provide them a little bit of room. I'm just going to fill in around this so that it will help to stabilize the tree. I'm going to bring in amendment to this level and taper it on out, build this up, then I'll finish this off with wood chips to help hold in all this moisture. This will continually settle over time, but this is the best way to start these because it gives them an ample opportunity to find the resources that they need to get established in this native soil on their own. This is just some old scrap hose. They don't really do a whole lot of shaping. They leave that up to the person that actually buys them. All of this is coming off, and essentially all I'm left with is that whip. My branches are going to start to form here, which is going to put all of this above deer and cattle browse height. You take too much off now, you'll never be able to put it back on, so I can come back later on and bring this down if I decide to, or when I decide to do maybe some summer pruning or do some pruning next winter. Leaves are going to cast to both sides of the fence, feeding livestock on this side as well as feeding livestock on that side of the fence. All of these trees are going to get a really decent mulch ring around the base here just to help to retain that moisture, protect the soil, protect those roots. Thanks for watching. Please consider subscribing to the channel. See you in the next video.